Welcome on in to the Dawg Check podcast, part of the Bleav network of podcasting, airing weekly on Bally Sports Cleveland. Guys, big news as we get you rolling this week with fresh episodes of the show. As the Cleveland Browns have traded Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills, they get back a third-round pick this upcoming year, plus a seventh-round pick in 2026. Along with Cooper, they send a sixth-round pick to the Bills. And I think here's the thing. So this to me is a statement from the team of where things are right now at 1-5 on a season that already feels like it's in the toilet. Frankly, I mean this is a theoretical of the white flag. I guess not technically because the team's going to go out and say we're still trying to win and all these different things. But this starts, I think, what's going to probably be a fire sale before the trade deadline. Don't expect this to be the last move that this team makes. They are signaling to everybody that they are in draft pick accumulation mode. They are looking to get draft capital for next year, a pivotal year in terms of building and reshaping this roster, given all the veterans that are kind of aging out of contracts or in the last year of their contracts and how much these so many players are costing against the cap right now. They're focused on how they can get younger and change things up a little bit. I think that's pretty evident with this. You get a third-round pick back for a wide receiver. I mean, initially the trades that Amari Cooper was linked in during training camp were to get a wide receiver back and Brandon Ayuk with the 49ers. We know that those fell through. That wasn't something that obviously came to fruition. But in the same vein, like now you 10 weeks later, just about from when those rumors first peaked, and you're talking about a team that's now kind of realizing like, okay, we got to start getting draft picks and figuring out what this thing looks like moving forward because Amari Cooper was clearly not part of the future. They made that pretty clear when they didn't sign him to a contract extension earlier this offseason. So, I think that's probably where this all started for Amari is you don't get the contract extension this summer. You could tell that he was never the type of guy that was going to cause problems inside a locker room. But you could tell that he was not necessarily jiving with the team as much this year. There was just sort of an aura about him that was different than previous seasons. And I think back to just the video that surfaced but the video that the team shared last December when Joe Flacco won, the MVP or whatever that Nickelodeon gives out. And he was out there sliming him, laughing, having a good time. And less than a year later, you could tell that he seemed disinterested. He just seemed like he had kind of been feeling like he was being pushed out and that it wasn't a comfortable situation for him. And I think that also played itself out in the field when he's dropping passes every week to the point where he leads the league in drops this season. So was he part of the problem in the offense? Sure, we can easily say that this year. He was he was playing pretty miserably. He was dropping a lot of passes, as I said. He wasn't helping the offense be any better. But at the same time, when you trade your number one wide receiver, your top guy, and Amari Cooper was still that on this team, even though he had his struggles, it tells everybody where you're at. Like the whole, we're taking it one game at a time and let's go 1-0 this week. Like all those fun mantras, yeah, they work for a team setting and they play well in the media when you're out there speaking to people publicly. But this team is clearly telling you where their heads are at. And now I think the repercussions of this, or not even the repercussions, because I do think we were all sort of coming to grips with what this season was starting to become. So we kind of understood that this type of stuff, like an Amari Cooper trade, was a possibility. But what inside the locker room now, you wonder what all this means. Because, like I said, I think more trades are definitely coming. But on top of that, you got to think about how this plays with other guys in the locker room. Do they understand now that this season is what it is and what the Browns are trying to do? How do they sell it to the rest of the team that they're still trying to win, while also trading off pieces that they feel like probably that I'm sure teammates feel were prudent to them winning football games. It's an interesting situation. We'll hear from Kevin Stefanski this week on how they're kind of spinning this thing. But on the surface, guys, as fans and spectators of this team, I think it's pretty obvious what the signals. They are on to 2025. They are on to the draft. And we can start those conversations because I'll add this. It's not just about those things because there's also the fact that the rest of the season now becomes about figuring out if you can get anything from Deshaun Watson. If you can salvage the player that is this quarterback that's obviously struggled a lot this year, and what your wide receiver room looks like without Amari Cooper in it. Can Jerry Jeudy be a number one, or do you have to go get more of those pass catchers, or maybe draft a guy? What pieces and parts will be here for the next iteration of this team, and which ones won't. That's what this rest of the season's about. And the Browns are already doing things now that have an eye on what 2025 and the draft in particular looks like for this team. But that's where we're at with this big news that Amari Cooper's been traded, and now it's all about where things kind of fall and lie the rest of the way with this team and how it's sold to the record room.